Thanks everyone for coming, and thank you to each of the candidates for being here tonight. The election is after tonight, 11 days away, which I'm sure you're all aware of. But many people have yet to make up their minds on who to support and how folks stand on the issues. So we appreciate having you here in this forum so that the community members of Chinatown and Lincoln Heights, along with the broader Asian American community in CD1, can be better informed about where you stand on the issues. We're excited to be co-organizing this event with the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance, Chinatown Community for Equitable Development, and with co-sponsorship from Chinatown Service Center, Southeast Asian Community Alliance, Organization of Chinese Americans, the Greater LA Chapter, Filipino Workers Center, and Nikkei for Civil Rights and Redress. We also want to acknowledge all of the audience members here who have taken time out of their busy lives to come here this evening to hear directly from CD1 candidates on the issues that are important to the community. So this is an opportunity for community members in Chinatown, Lincoln Heights, and surrounding neighborhoods to not only learn more about the candidates, but also for the candidates to learn more about the issues that matter to residents that will help to make up CD1. We also want to make sure that our community members know what resources are available to them so that they're informed about not only about who they can vote for, but how to get assistance to actually get out and vote. So we structured the agenda to hopefully reach those goals. We'll start the program with a presentation about language access at the polls for voters who may need assistance in their native language to vote. After that, we will hear preliminary results from a community survey conducted by students from UCLA Professor Paul Ong's class, and we hope that the candidates will keep the information from this survey in mind as they answer our questions. We will have 4 predetermined questions to be answered by all of the candidates. Each response will be limited to 90 seconds. If necessary, I will ask follow-up questions and the candidates will have up to 60 seconds to respond. We will then collect questions from the audience. Audience members will submit questions to forum organizers. So can Jose raise your hand? Jose is in the back there. So he'll be one of the people collecting questions from the audience. And we'll screen the questions for relevance to CD1 and appropriate content. And they will consolidate the questions to prevent duplication. Questions will be provided to me, and I will post them to the candidates. All candidates may respond to any question, even if the question was directed specifically to another candidate. Questions from the audience cannot be disparaging of any of the candidates and must address issues that fall under the jurisdiction of Council District 1. Because of time constraints, we may not be able to get to every question. Finally, candidates will be each given 90 seconds to make their closing statements, and we will conclude the program at that point. Just some reminders, translation equipment is available. We'll have simultaneous translation in Cantonese on channel 1, and Spanish is channel 5. Please remember to return the translation devices to the registration table when you leave. If you need assistance in any other language, then please let someone at the registration table know, and we will do our best to accommodate you. Staff from the Los Angeles Office of the City Clerk, Election Division, they have a table outside. I don't know if you saw them. If you need assistance with any voter registration, vote by mail, or any questions for the city related to these elections, you should go out there and talk to them, and they'll be available after the program to assist you. And just a reminder, if you're tweeting this event, please use the hashtag Chinatown CD1 forum. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just CD1.
Just CD1. Sorry, I did not consult with communications. So just to get this started, then I'm going to introduce Deanna Kitamura, who is the Senior Staff Attorney in the Voting Rights Unit at the Asian Pacific American Legal Center.
Everyone. I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about language assistance that will be at the poll sites at the upcoming elections. My name again is Deanna Kitamura, and I'm with the Asian Pacific American Legal Center. Happy New Year, everybody. Good evening. I'm going to be talking about, the material I'm looking at is this one-page document that everyone should have on their seat. So by law, the city will be providing language assistance at the poll sites, and the languages that we're providing them are in Chinese, Hindi, Japanese, Korean, Spanish, Tagalog, Thai, and Vietnamese. And also this year is very exciting that they're also going to be providing limited language assistance in Armenian. In Chinatown, at the precincts here, all the precincts will have language assistance in Chinese, Spanish, and Vietnamese. And so this is not the way way that it works in the city of LA is that they don't provide language assistance at every single poll site. It's just targeted based on the population. And so again, here in Chinatown, there will be providing language assistance in those 3 languages I just mentioned. And so at targeted sites, what there will be is written election materials. So all of the ballot materials, everything that you need to look at will be there in those, not only in English, but the 3 languages that I mentioned. Also, there will be bilingual poll workers at the precincts here in Chinatown. If you are interested in getting written materials mailed to you, like the official sample ballot, you need to fill out a request for those materials, and I will talk about that in a moment. There's also an audio ballot booth. That's that when you walk into your precinct, you may not have noticed that there's this blue plastic-looking audio ballot booth, and at that booth, you can actually listen to you can vote by listening to it. And so not only is it in English, it's in Cantonese, Mandarin, Hindi, Japanese, Korean, Spanish, Tagalog, Thai, and Vietnamese. So even if you go to a precinct and they don't have bilingual materials or bilingual poll workers, then you can always use that blue audio ballot booth to vote if you want to vote in a different language. So you can request materials just for this language, just for this election by filling out forms that the city has, but we also have the forms that we're going to be distributing those forms. Is anybody interested in requesting translated materials? Anybody here that wants to be able to vote in a different language? Folks who are using the audio translators, would you be interested in signing up to get translated materials to vote? No? Okay, well, if you do know anybody who is...
Can hear you again.
Oh, sorry, now can you hear me? So if you want translated materials, we have the forms, so if you are interested... Can you hear me now? Hello? So if you're interested in translated materials, can you raise your hand if you're interested in receiving materials in election materials in any language other than English? Nobody here? Okay, but if you do know anybody who would be interested, like a family member or a neighbor, we've provided on this one sheet. You can call the city for this election, or you can contact the county to request those materials for all other elections. The last thing I wanted to mention is that by law, you can also bring an assistant if you need to vote. And so the assistant can be anybody as long as it's not your employer or the union. So normally we think of voting as a very private issue, but if you want to take in an assistant, by law you are allowed to. So if somebody tries to prevent you from taking an assistant, let them know that you know your rights and that you're entitled to do that. Anyway, again, that's all I wanted to cover in terms of language assistance. If you need any of the materials, just keep a hold of this paper and go to the county and city, call the city, or else you can go to the website for the county. Thank you.
I forgot to say about writing candidates and things with the audio, you cannot override. So you need to explain that because if you did say that in the press conference, I'm letting them know about writing candidates.
So he's absolutely right that the audio ballot booth only has what's prepared in the written ballot. And so if you want to do a write-in candidate, you would have to remember that person's name and write down that person's name on your ballot.
Thank you, Deanna. So if folks have additional questions about language access at the polls, you can actually, in addition to the information that Deanna set out there, you can learn more from going to our website at apalc.org and look for our hotline numbers. So there are a lot of seats in front that are actually not being used. So folks that are in the back, I don't want to get in trouble for fire hazard or anything like that. So folks could just come up and sit up here. I think these candidates are friendly enough, so you don't need to worry. So next on the agenda is we're going to get a presentation on some results of a community survey conducted by students at UCLA. So King Chung from the Chinatown Community for Equitable Development and Emily Lam, who is a student at UCLA who worked on the survey, we can just come up and spend a little bit of time talking about these.
Hi. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, what we're going to do is that I'm going to talk a little bit about the demographics from the census. Before I do that, I'm just so happy that we get a chance to have all the Kansas District 1 candidates come in today to present their platforms and answer questions from the people in the community. And I think that this is probably not the first. It'll be like been a long time since we had the candidate come to Chinatown to present their views. But anyway, the first thing I want to talk about is that Chinatown is a community of renters. 91% of the residents are renters. That's a pretty high number, 91%. And number two is that Chinatown is a very low-income community. The median household income is about $22,800 per year, which is pretty low. But the problem is that 56% of the households make $20,000 or less each year. So, that's a lot of poverty in Chinatown. The third thing is that Chinatown is home to immigrants. About 72% of the households or the residents are foreign born. And most are from China and Mexico. And mainly Mandarin and Cantonese speaking. Okay, now I'm going to present a survey from UCLA. Just talk about that.
Hello. 大家好，恭喜發財。My name is Emily. I'm a UCLA student taking an urban planning class of Professor Paul Ong. Our project is to partner up with CCED to study demographics, concerns, and community issues about Chinatown. Our goal is to conduct 100 surveys from Chinatown residents. So far, we have done 2 canvassings and successfully got 54 surveys. Our survey found out that the top concerns of Chinatown residents is job opportunities. About 32% cited as their top issues. The second key issue is public safety. About 15% cited as their top issues. The third key issue is healthcare. About 15% cited as their top issues. And then the fourth key issue is housing. About 13% cited as their top issues. Also, in our survey sample, we have about 69% of Asian, followed with a Latino populations of 17% and a white population of 12%, and a very small number of black population of 0.03%. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
So much for that. We look forward to seeing the rest of the results. So I'm going to jump into the questions now. I know that some of the candidates need to keep a tight schedule. So given that job opportunities were identified as the most important issue in the results, the preliminary results for the survey, we're going to start on that issue. So the mayor has done a lot to bring more jobs into the city, including initiatives like the Clean Tech Corridor. These opportunities, though, have not been fully made available to residents of CD1 who may not have the specialized skills and qualifications to apply for these jobs. So what will you do to create more quality job opportunities that are relevant and accessible to the existing communities in Chinatown and Lincoln Heights and the rest of the country? So I don't want to appear to play favorites, but since Mr. Cedillo is closest to me, I will pass it on.
Thank you. I'm Gil Cedillo. How are you? Good evening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing what I say, taking the act of leadership. All of you could be home or you could be someplace else. It's an incredible city. There's a lot of places to be tonight. And instead, you're up here with us. 4 of us who wish to represent you on the Los Angeles City Council at a time of tremendous change. I always say in every presentation, if you want to know what somebody's going to do Look to see what they've done. Look to see what their history is. Look to see what they've accomplished, and that will be an indicator of what they're going to do. And it will tell you, in many respects, how they're going to do it. And so I want to begin, first of all. You should never do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I want to say hello to a friend of mine, Ken Wood, who I met at UCLA, who taught me how that whatever you do, every single day, you could live a rich life in pursuit of justice. So if you want to know, now let me go on about jobs. I have a record. I wrote a bill called the Downtown Rebound. It was part of what's called the Smart Growth policy perspective, in which we had people move into a community where no one lived, and we created jobs, live workspace, cafes, studios, a supermarket without rancor or controversy, and it was all done within the context of a consensus built within the residents of downtown LA. That sets a template and a model for how I would represent you in the Los Angeles City Council. Thank you.
I want to thank you for inviting us today. I think this day committee is very important because it's part of the district. And I believe if we have more hands on it, I believe we can make the difference in this community. And thank you all for being here today, because today is important. Because you're going to make choices, probably will be happy later or may not happy later. Definitely we are here for individuals. They want to get you vote. But in reality, you have to make the decision. Because it's not what they've done, it's what we can do for you. How we can develop to you and come in and work with you. I believe the jobs is needed here in our community. How we can do that? Definitely we have to create jobs, but at least I believe the small business, as a businessman, I believe the business need the tools they need to succeed. And they haven't happened for the last 20 years. And I think so all the communities the same. Why? Because we have not had the leadership in our community. As a businessman, I committed myself to bring a small business the tools they need to succeed, to be able to create jobs in our community, because it's important. I believe the more jobs we create in our community, they will be more successful. That's what I'm here today, to ask you for your support, because I'm thinking out of the box. Just like many of you guys, I'm an immigrant like everybody else, and I'm thinking out of the box. Why? Because I've been there. I have the hands on it. I've been in business for so many years. And I've been involved in the community without no pay. I didn't get no pay for the events I created, involved in the community, or either the projects that we have in the community. It's what I'm here today, to ask you for your support, because it's important. Thank you.
Actually, thank you once again. I also want to thank the Chinatown community for supporting me for the last years and voting me back in as state precinct chairman. That's what I do. And I'm also a property manager. There has been a lot of policies that I presented to the state as your state precinct chairman, which they've neglected. The one thing that's been neglected by the city, this is what I feel we need to really get rid of, is the gross sales tax receipts for all businesses. That will get you more jobs. Get rid of these parking meters. Now, Gil Cedillo says about his record. He's on standing on this record. That record hasn't proven anything to these businesses, because I grew up in this community. I've been in Lincoln Heights for 50 years. I've been a property manager for 31 years and a block captain for Neighborhood Watch for 31 years. So I've seen what goes on here. I used to be the precinct inspector here for elections. So Mr. Cedillo and everybody can tell you up here how they're sugarcoating everything. But the one reality is about bringing jobs back to Chinatown and helping the Chinese community. And he's not saying that, he's saying about the downtown rebound. He's not talking about Chinatown. Chinatown, we need to get rid of these meters so we can bring back locals to come to the community here and start shopping more, and also get rid of the gross tax receipts. Thank you.
Is this thing working okay? Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Very good. Thank you all for coming out, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you tonight. The single most important thing you're going to hear tonight is not going to come from any of us. You already heard it. The professor and the students. Chinatown is a real neighborhood, ladies and gentlemen. It is not just a tourist destination. It's just not the last stop before you get to downtown on the light rail. So if you recognize Chinatown as a real neighborhood with real challenges, such as immigration, renters, poverty, language barriers, then the policies that we need to establish as your representatives have to be based on that, not on models from downtown, ladies and gentlemen, because downtown rebound, in fact, did not create affordable housing. It didn't create living wage jobs. So I'm not going to be your representative that's going to be basing it on models that don't work for a real neighborhood. I'm going to look to issues like an affordable housing policy across the city so that the people that live in neighborhoods like Chinatown can actually afford to live in our community and can afford to stay in this community. The second topic we need to cover as a city, and it's a very tough conversation, is the question of wages. Are we going to have a city that maintains minimum wage jobs, or are we going to be a city that's mature enough to talk about living wage? Because if we really want to get our folks out of poverty, we have to pay them better. That's the only way we can improve Chinatown. Thank you.
So in my haste to get the program started, I neglected to introduce each of the candidates, so I deeply apologize. So some of these folks, Mr. Gil Cedillo has been a representative of many communities for a long time, so I think people know who he is, but I'm just going to introduce. Yes. And everybody, obviously, you've had a stake in some leadership role in the community, but I'm just going to introduce you now to avoid my further embarrassment. To my left is former Assembly Member Gil Cedillo, and next to him is Mr. Jesse Rosas, and William Morrison is third in line, and then last but not least is Mr. Jose Gardea. We're just going to forget using the mics, and if you can't hear me, then if you can just raise your hand, and I'll try to be louder. So now I'm going to jump into the second question. Now that the economy is just starting to turn around, we're seeing a lot more developments happening, especially in CD1. You can see a lot of the construction with the GIA apartments and some developments in MacArthur Park. And Chinatown and its adjacent areas are really prime real estate for market rate development and projects. So this is a two-parter that you should be able to answer in this 90-second allotment. First question is, do you believe that companies and developers should commit to provide good jobs, which pay living wages and provide benefits and community benefits as a condition of receiving economic development subsidies and generous development rights? And the second part of that question is, with the dissolution of redevelopment agencies, local communities don't have any resources or any special land use authority to attract sustainable development that creates good jobs and affordable housing. So what tools and solutions would you support to encourage investment in the council district that promotes good jobs, affordable housing, and walkable communities and not displaced residents? So I'm actually going to start with Mr. Gardea, just to mix things up.
So repeat the first question.
Do you believe that companies and developers should commit to provide good jobs and community benefits as a condition of receiving economic development subsidies and generous development rates?
Everyone heard that question, right? The answer is yes. I'm going to be very specific with you tonight on my answers. The answer is yes. I've been very proud of the fact that over the last 12 years, we have been part of an office that has been asking exactly for those kind of opportunities from developers, whether you're in Chinatown or any part of the district. But the reality is that we are at the mercy of the level of cooperation of the developer. Now, you're looking at the chief of staff that negotiated for close to a year with the nonprofit community, the housing community, to create an inclusionary zoning policy in this city. Okay? Now, the fact is that organizations like the LA Chamber of Commerce, the Central City Association, that don't have a stake in Chinatown, only see it as a tourist destination, that is a real neighborhood. Those kind of organizations believe that people like me that are asking for concessions and community protections are part of the problem, not part of the solution. And for that reason, they did not endorse me. Because when I stood before them to talk to them about endorsement, I stood on principle. So it's important that we have not only that commitment in Chinatown, I believe that if we're going to grow as a city and be a sustainable, healthy city, we have to have a citywide policy. That's the first question, right? Second question was?
With the dissolution of redevelopment agencies, local communities don't have the resources or any special land use authority to attract sustainable development that creates good jobs and affordable housing. So what tools or solutions would you support to encourage investment in the cultural district to promote those jobs?
You all know that we had a CRA here in Chinatown, Community Redevelopment Agency Project Area. The single most tragic public policy decision made in the last several years was when the state of California, which Mr. Cedillo was a part of, eliminated the CRA. Now, we asked very clearly that we reform the CRA, but in fact, we didn't listen, and they eliminated the entire agency. We lost the economic engine for Chinatown. We lost time on Blossom Plaza. We lost money to fix our sidewalks. We lost money to provide special services through Chinatown Service Center. The impact is very, very clear down the list. So the question becomes, how do we then respond to that? The response has to be that as a city, we have to become much more aggressive in recruiting businesses and companies to come to Los Angeles. But it's not just about the recruitment, it's about under what conditions they're going to come to Los Angeles. So as a city, we have to use our zoning powers to actually incentivize the kind of businesses that can come to Los Angeles that will create the kind of jobs that will lift our community out of poverty. So when you hear about the Cornfields Arroyo Seco specific plan and the zoning patterns that we created there, it is with the specific intent of creating opportunities for companies to come to Los Angeles to provide good jobs. We'll get into it further, I only have 5 seconds left. But I believe that we have a lot of work to do, but we need a council member that's going to represent you and not outside interest. Thank you.
So the question was on housing,
So I'm going to repeat the first part of the question, and then when you're done answering that, I'll repeat the second part of the question. So do you believe that companies and developers should commit to provide good jobs and community benefits as a condition of receiving economic development subsidies and generous development?
yes, I do believe that they should. And one of the standpoints that I have been trying to create a policy to the state, and also I already sent it to the city also. The one thing is, when you're doing development in this community, we have to think of the income of every single person, senior citizens throughout the whole community, everybody in the community. And what I have proposed to the state, and I've been proposing for the last 4 years, which Mr. Cedillo was part of that solution. Nobody wants to hear me because I do not represent the Democratic Party. And I'm going to say it right now, I represent the Republican Party as their official for this area. Now, they don't listen to me about policies that should be made. I said we should put it on a scale basis, but they don't believe in that. And it should be throughout the whole city. It should be throughout the state, because in these economical times, it is very difficult to afford housing and rent. And the one thing is, these are your elected officials that you decided to elect to be up there to represent us. Now, this wasn't a choice of mine as it happened, but since the one thing I did bring, I brought a gift because I didn't get a chance to do an opening speech. This that I'm placing right there, 18 months ago, a person told me that they were not going to run for city council. This was a centerpiece, and I believe Mr. Cedillo will remember that happened. And he made a promise that he wasn't going to run. So what I said before, a person of honor, do not lie, steal or cheat from this community. Thank you. Second part of the question.
So with the dissolution of redevelopment agencies, local communities don't have the resources or any special land use authority to attract sustainable development that creates new jobs and affordable housing. So what tools or solutions would you support to encourage investment in the council district to promote good jobs, affordable housing, and walkable communities, and not displaced residents?
Well, the one thing is, I already spoke to the CRA. I know the CRA, they say can go back to council floors and come back. That's one organization that needs to come back, and we have to look at the development from the CRA and saving our open spaces, which when I have my meeting, there are a lot of open spaces that developers are attacking. The CRA says there's designated sites to where they can already build, and they need to build on those designated sites. But like I mentioned to the CRA, we need to put everything on a scale basis. Developers do not like my way of thinking because they're being greedy. The greed has to stop. This is our city and our community. I don't care who the developer is, as our city councilman, if they're not gonna abide by the city rules for our community and helping our community, they're not gonna be building the community. Thank you.
Definitely, yes, we need housing in our community, definitely. But the problem I have when we really have a developer, they always say affordable housing. In reality, the statistics here, they show today, the average of the income today is $26,000 here in our community. And eventually, as developers, when they develop any of the condominiums or apartments or housing, they only have 1 or 2 units affordable, and the rest is not. How we can improve that? Definitely, we have to have regulations and rules when they come into the city. But the problem I have, when the city gives a land for $1 to them for at least for 1 year, I have a problem with that because it's our tax money. I believe that we should have an open space, yes. I think so we can do better with the open space, right, to build something that's not affordable for the community. And that is what we have to make conditions. If any developer comes in our community, we have to have the conditions and the consensus of the community, because it has to be black and white. When they have affordable housing, they have to figure out how they can pay the rent, how they can buy the condominium. People who earn $26,000 a year, they're not able to purchase $100,000 home. Not even 75,000. So there's a problem here. As an elected official, I will work with you to develop that corridors and areas. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you have any specific, the response to any tools or solutions that you?
Well, we have a lot of tools in our community. That's what, to resolve the issues and problems in our community, I will get a town hall meetings, bring the people into the table, and try to find out what the solution will be for the benefit of the community. Yes, we have a lot of talented people here in our community. We have the resources. We can really apply for the state funds, the federal funds that are available for housing and for business as well. But nobody had take the time to invite the community and say, this is what we can do. This is what we can develop in our corridor. You should make it decision behind the scenes is kind of difficult when they come out and show you a developer is being approved. That is not acceptable to me. This is what, we can find a solution for affordable housing in our community, yes. How? The consensus for the community. We can find the resources as well. Thank you.
Yes, okay. First question is, do you believe that companies and developers should commit to provide good jobs and community benefits as a condition of receiving economic development subsidies and general development?
So the answer is yes, of course. If we are engaged in providing stimulus for private sector developers, of course we should negotiate the best deal that we can. Of course, that's an obvious yes. But that's not the problem. The problem here is we have no development. You look at Blossom Plaza, there's no development there. I mean, it's a total failure. It's a total reflection and embodiment of the absolute failure to get anything done. And so I'm not a planner. And when I take office, I'm not going to hire 6 planners. I'm a doer. We're going to get things done. And so do I believe we need to negotiate those so that working men and women can get better wages? Absolutely. And that's why I have the confidence of the American Federation of Labor, AFL-CIO, the County Federation of Labor. That's why unions have endorsed me. Because they have the confidence that at the end of the day, working men and women will do better. If I'm in city council and I'm negotiating the deals, that deals will get done Because as a trade unionist, I know that deals have to get done. There's a consequence when they don't. And I know how to negotiate the best deal for working men and women, and that's why I'm proud to have the support of the AFL-CIO.
So the second question is, with the dissolution of redevelopment agencies, local communities don't have the resources or any special land use authority to attract sustainable development that creates good jobs and affordable housing. So what tools or solutions would you support to encourage investment in council districts that promotes good jobs, affordable housing, walkable communities? It's not.
So any and all tools that are available. But you have to create an atmosphere and confidence in the business community that you can get a deal done. And that's why at the same time that I'm endorsed by organized labor, I'm also endorsed by the Chamber of Commerce. Because the Chamber believes that I'm a person who doesn't play games, doesn't one day help somebody get a permit and then the next day act like they're against the development, but that I'm a person who's straightforward. I'll tell you what the deal is, I'll tell you how it gets done, I'll tell you how it gets resolved, and I'll show you the benefit of both of them, and bringing people together, working with the community, working with the vested interest, bringing people together so that we can have the type of appropriate development in Chinatown that serves the entire community, that's responsive to the demographics that we're brought here. Community of renters, of immigrants, poor people, small businesses. That's the type of leadership I would bring to city.
So the final predetermined questions, I'm going to pose to Mr. Rosas. So as you saw from the presentation around language access for voters, the need for translation is critical to the active engagement and participation of our community members. Councilmember Ed Reyes set aside resources to ensure that interpretation would be provided in languages requested by community members, especially if those community members will speak at the event. What will you do to open up the civic engagement process to those in your district that are limited English proficient? And beyond hiring Asian staffers, what will you do to ensure that community members like those here in the room have access to your office?
Definitely it's important for me, the translation. Definitely we need to get people to speak the language so they can really communicate with the community. Definitely I will hire the people that work in the community, no outsiders. They know the community, they know the roots here in the community, they can communicate with the rest of the community. Definitely, yes, it's important. I believe to get people involved to participate in the system. If you guys elect me, definitely I will hire an Asian representative, so they can be speaking not one language, several languages, because it's important. How to communicate with the rest of the people. Definitely, if it's the case, we can hire translators like today. We have several translators today. Definitely, it's important for everybody to communicate, to understand what the issues are and what's the concerns of the community. Definitely, I will work for them, and definitely, I will bring it to you, all the language that you need to able to spread yourself. Definitely, yes. Thank you.
Mr. Morrison? So, do you need the whole question or just?
Yeah.
Okay, so language access is clearly very important to voters to promote active engagement and participation of our community members. And Councilmember Reyes set aside some funds to provide translation or interpretation at meetings where community members are going to speak and they've made the request. So what will you do to open up the civic engagement process to those in your district that have limited English proficiency? And beyond hiring Asian staffers, what will you do to ensure that community members like those that look like the folks here in this room have access to your office?
Actually, one of the first things is, I know Chinatown hasn't had a district office in a long time. And I think we need a district office here in Chinatown. And also, we will hire from the community. So this way we have the translation there so we can listen to your needs, your concerns. I know it's been difficult for me here years before, because 5 years ago I was a precinct inspector here during the election. So it was very difficult. I know there's different languages. You have Tagalog, you have Cantonese and Chinese, and different languages that do come in this community, and also Spanish. So that's one thing we truly need, and I will hire somebody and have an office. Thank you.
So as I said, if you want to see what somebody's going to do look at what they've done. So I had perhaps the largest API staff in the nation of any legislative office, the largest API staff in the nation of any legislative office. And that's significant, because people would not think that. But if you look, and if you would have called my staff, we said, well, why do we do that? Because when somebody calls your office, you want somebody to pick up the phone and they speak the language. So that's one. Obviously, my staff will reflect this community, will reflect the entirety of the community. Second, obviously, we will proliferate the field offices so that City Hall is accessible. Right? City Hall is accessible to the community. If you ask in the community, people ask, about our office, our reputation is that we're the most accessible. That we are an accessible office, both in the staff and its proximity, but more so that people feel comfortable when they come to the office. And so if you look, and then let me finish, because on the alternative, I've been an advocate for immigrants. I don't think anybody will dispute that. But let me give you a point. On the other hand, if you look to Ed Reyes' office, in this district, immigrants were having their vehicles taken from them, told they were exploited. The last 5 years, until we changed the policy, $100 million was taken out of the pockets of immigrants living in this community. And over the last 5 years, not one word, not one resolution, not one speech, not one comment. There's no evidence of this office speaking up in defense of those immigrants when the police are under this jurisdiction. Not one word in any language in defense of immigrants. So if you want to see what somebody's going to do, look to see what they've done. Thank you.
Mr. Godea, can you repeat the question?
No. So first of all, we're going to continue what we've been doing for the last 12 years, and that is provide resources to make sure that we have trained professionals communicating in your language, whatever community we might be having meetings in. So we're going to continue that practice. The second issue is really going back to my community organizing days. And one of the things I'm going to do differently as a field office, as your council member, is I'm going to put more resources into the field staff and actually hire 2 or 3 organizers to actually work out of the field office. Because one of the models that works in immigrant communities that I've worked on for many years, and I've worked with many different immigrant groups throughout the district, which, by the way, are endorsing me because of the work I've done in this district, is train the trainer model, where we train people and then go out and then train others in the community. So we can create a grid of informed, educated, active, participating residents. Language barriers is not an issue not to do it. It's actually the reason why we should do it. So what you're going to see from me as a council member, one is continue providing resources to the translation services. Number 2, you're going to have an office that's going to be much more oriented to community organizing. Number 3, using the trainer model. And number 4 is really emphasizing and funding the city's Office of Immigrant Affairs so that we have one more layer of advocacy within City Hall. Thank you.
So that concludes the set questions, and we're going to transition over to audience questions now. I just actually wanted to remind folks that if you look on your seat, there should be a priority issue survey. Please fill it out. This is actually, we see the elections and the voting process as just one component of community engagement. And we want to continue to work with folks who are interested in any of the issues that are in the priority issue surveys. So please fill them out, and then we'll be collecting. It's being handed out right now, and so when you leave, there will be somebody at the door to collect them. So, questions already? So to give everybody the chance to respond first, I'm going to pose this question to Mr. Morrison. As you know, Walmart is a very controversial topic in Chinatown. Do you promote the establishment of Walmart or any big chain store? Why or why not? And in your honest opinion, how will this affect the local small businesses?
Thank you. That's a great question. Actually, I do not support Walmart. The one thing is Walmart does not pay living wages. Now, if we go by the standards of what the wages used to be back in the 60s, I think it was $1.60, and what they should be today, and they're only $7.25 for a little bit above that. Wages right now should be at least $21.95. That is livable wages. Walmart does not pay that, and do not support Walmart. And I know it's gonna be dramatic on all the local businesses here. It's gonna take away from these local businesses, mom and pop stores that have been here for years. Stores that I visited before in the past are gonna be gone. We need to bring in businesses that really support the community, like the Stater Brothers, that's a union store that pays union wages that will give you a better quality of life. Thank you.
Mr. Rosa?
Definitely is, I'm against Walmart. Why? Let me tell you why. Because I don't believe that big corporations should step into the community and take all the benefit of the doubt. Unfortunately, somebody gave the permits and the ability to come to the community. They didn't happen by itself. The community was not informed. Why does this happen? I believe in a small business. Why? Because if we would help a small business, they create jobs, they stay here in the community, all the money they make, the tax money, and I believe that we can create, we can have a better community when we have a small business in our community. That's what a lot of people, they don't believe in small business. Why? Believe in big corporations. The corporations, they don't give the jobs they need in our community. Unfortunately, there's reality. A small business, they can hire our own people. They can create jobs, and they can sustainable in our community as well. It's what I believe in small business. That's definitely the big. Walmart is not acceptable in our community without the permission of the community. Thank you.
That is probably the best question about the choices that are before you today. I have a one-word answer to that. It's called Ralph's. Part of the downtown rebound, we brought Ralph's Supermarket to downtown. And it adjusted to the community, union wage jobs, no rancor, no conflict, working with the business community and the unions. We've come together. Dave Sickler, a friend of mine, says, Gilbert, I need you to bring a market downtown. And we brought him Ralph's. On the other hand, what did the First District bring you? The First District that's last in building permits, last in business permits, of which the council member is chair of the Planning and Land Use Management Committee, gave the permits to Walmart, and then after all the permits were done and it was locked down legally as a matter of right, then they said, oh, now we're against Walmart. It's unnecessary drama, it's unnecessary theater, it's unnecessary rancor, and it shows the lack of leadership in the First District. If you want more of that, you have a choice. If you want the leadership that brought progress without conflict and resolution, then I'm your choice. Thank you.
You know, it's interesting because now we've had 6 or 7 debates, candidate forums throughout the district. And every single one, the question of Walmart comes up. And the question is very simple. Do you support Walmart or not? Of the 4, only 3 of us have answered that question directly at every single opportunity with a yes or a no. The answer is no. No, no, and no. You haven't heard from the 4th candidate what his position specifically on Walmart is. We all support Ralph's. We all agree, right? Ralph's is union. We support it. I have the endorsement of the UFCW. They are the union that represent the workers at our grocery stores. And they endorsed me because they saw the fight that we put up to stop the Walmart that was coming to Chinatown. It wasn't neglect, ladies and gentlemen. It was manipulation. And the truth will come out, I believe, as to how Walmart secured the permits the day before we were to approve the ICO. Walmart is targeting me, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't believe it, look at the signs, look at your mailers. Walmart has made me a target. They're making me a target because I have fought Walmart, and I will continue to fight Walmart in this district. Thank you.
Mr. CEO, this question is actually directed at you. You talk about your work to help revitalize downtown as a victory. The adaptive reuse ordinance brought 10,000 new units of housing, but none of them were affordable, which many see as a huge policy failure. What are you going to do to make sure we don't repeat this failure?
Well, that is and it's an opinion, 50,000 people live downtown. Who didn't live there before. It's one of the most prosperous centers of the city, the state, the nation. It's a template for growth. 50,000 people live there who didn't live there before. There's small business, and shops and cafes and theaters. There's a restaurant row. There is also as we talked about, a Ralph's with the union jobs. So I think most people, particularly those who live there and who shop there, think it's a great place. It's one of the most vibrant places, as I said, in the city, state, and the nation. So people seem to be very, very pleased of the downtown rebound because they're trying to emulate it as a smart growth model throughout the nation.
So although the question was directed specifically to Mr. Cedillo, I will ask if any of the other candidates Mr. Garcia.
That question is not an opinion, it's a fact. Downtown rebound did not create affordable housing. In fact, the Central City Association and the Chamber of Commerce, which were the prime movers of downtown rebound, were very proud of the fact that there was no affordability within the housing plan for downtown rebound. So it's not an opinion, it's a fact. Ask Jan Perry. Jan Perry is councilwoman for downtown, had to fight hard to bring in resources for affordable housing in downtown. Ask our office, because we saw the displacement of people of limited means that live downtown come into Westlake, into our district. And yet, we don't have an affordable housing policy because Central City Association and the Chamber of Commerce, which have endorsed my opponent, refuse to accept the fact that as a city, we need to have a policy that incorporates all housing levels. I will be your council member that will again push hard for an affordable housing policy across the city so that everybody takes responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose answered that very correctly, and it's the same way I feel too. Now, Mr. Cedillo talks about this downtown rebound. My policy that I said to the state for years, that it needs to be on the scale. Now he's talking about he really supports immigrants. He's not supporting anybody in this room when there's not affordable housing, when he's talking about the downtown rebound and being the representative for the state senator, and also assembly. Now, I had said before of cheating. He's cheated this community for 18 years as your senator, assemblyman. He has not done anything for it. And he's stolen time from you too, for those 18 years. And the thing that I said, which was in District 1, this is a symbol from the J.C. Marriott at the state convention when he literally told me he was not going to run for city council. That he was not. But he decided, well, this is a position for him, which I already know, that the one reason he was here is because of the developers and the chamber, because he just wants to drive us out of this community. And that is one of the main reasons he is running. Thank you.
So there's a question that was actually texted to me. So, how will the LA River revitalization impact historical communities to live along the river, who live along the river, particularly low-income Latino and Asian communities? The second part of that question is, well, actually, I'll just ask the first question first. So, I believe we're at Mr. Garcia.
Repeat that question.
How will the LA River revitalization impact historical communities who live along the river, particularly Asian and Latino communities?
The Cornfields Arroyo Sector Specific Plan was created to protect communities. There's nothing in the plan that talks about displacement. There's nothing in the plan that speaks about eliminating neighborhoods. It's quite the contrary. It is about reconnecting our neighborhoods, whether you're downtown, Lincoln Heights, Chinatown, Cypress Park, Atwater Village. The river plan is about reconnecting what is the original waterway, the lifeblood of this city. The plan was specifically created so that displacement is never a concern. It reconnects us to our waterway, it reconnects us to our infrastructure. Now, the question of how do we get to a revitalized river is very important, especially at this point. There are two moments in time coming up that are very important. The first one is the hydrology study that the Army Corps of Engineers is conducting. They're going to tell us where and how we can break through the concrete of the LA River. Now imagine that, where we can have a river that actually flows without concrete. We will have the answer to that question very soon. But in order to get ready for that moment, we have to buy land, and that's it. We're in the process of negotiating the purchase of land in the Cypress Park area so that we can have an opportunity to break through the concrete. So I believe that during my administration, we're going to see the dream come true of a river that's revitalized, and at the same time, protecting neighborhoods and reconnecting neighborhoods to the river. Thank you.
The second part of that question is, what activities will your office engage in to promote the voices of youth and low-income communities of color in the revitalization process?
The river, absolutely. Look, it goes back to my concept of train the trainers. This is why I want to be an office that is much more focused on organizing communities, because there's a lot of good work ahead of us. Putting the plan together involves a lot of people, involves a lot of organizations. Implementing the plan is much harder. The only way we're going to implement a plan at the scale and scope of the LA River Master Plan is by engaging all communities. And I believe that young people, especially young people that are so focused and energetic on technology, can be tremendous bridges with the overall community. So we're going to emphasize community organizing as a strong component of every development plan that comes as a result of the LA River Plan. So you're going to see me at the forefront of training young people to be engaged in their community and talk about the river as the lifeline for the city. Thank you.
Okay, I want to preserve the communities around the river. I know it's a vital core of the city of LA years ago. And the one thing up in Sacramento, you have Old Town Sacramento and the development part of Sacramento. It would be like downtown LA. So we need to preserve along the LA River. And that's one thing that I will do when I'm elected in 12 days as the next city council. I'm the strongest candidate. And one thing is, you always say you want to make sure your vote counts. This time you have the opportunity in 12 days. Write in my name, William Rodriguez Morrison, your best candidate, because I've been here for 50 years. I fought against Gil for several years. Not against everybody. You know what? The one thing is being an elected official, I'm not there to make friends with them. I'm here to protect the community, and I will vote. That's what I'm here for. It's not my job. I do this because I care for my people. And that's what I want to be here, and I'm going to make sure that everything's good. And I went on to the next part of that question. And the next part is about jobs with our kids. One thing is, there was a lot of things taken away. Now, he talks about Upward Downs and other programs. And now, let's just put this in perspective. Mr. Cedillo only focuses on low poverty, income children. There's a lot of children in the middle. When I went to college, we paid a registration. That was back in the 80s. I paid for community college, our taxes, also for our education system. We need to make sure our community colleges are there for our kids, and they're not paying for units. And that's where the middle class gets knocked down. And that's one thing that I want to make sure of. Bring back internships, apprenticeship programs, and also vocational education. It's one thing that was taken away from me. That's him as a senator. And those are the things I want to bring back to the city council. Thank you. And also as state commission chairman, since I still will be the representative.
Definitely, there's an opportunity for the whole community. A master plan of the river in a cornfield. But what I don't like is to display people. It's very important. I know housing is gonna come out in San Fernando Road. It's already in a master plan. It's to the developers, they give the green light already for that part particular. But you know, I don't believe they have affordable housing. I don't think so. That's what I don't like, to displace people. And I will see not to display the business on San Fernando Road. definitely in Cypress coming up the river, it is important, but not on behalf of the community. I believe we can find a way, and definitely we have to find this. The study is going to finish in probably a few months, but that study has to be complete and introduced to the community, so the community will know exactly what's going on and what we can do better in our community. Definitely the master plan is there. It's been imposed already. It's been working for over more than 14 years. But a lot of people, they don't know exactly how the master plan is coming up. Thank you. And the other way to establish jobs, I will create apprenticeship is very important for our community. Definitely the youth is important to get involved. The youth need jobs. They need apprenticeship as well. How we can find that? Working together to find out what the needs are in our community. Because otherwise, if you impose a city council my way or no way, that's not be a good leader. There has to be a consensus from the community how we can create jobs, what we need to do to be able to progress this community. Not just specific Latinos and Chinese, all communities in general. I believe that if we work united, we can accomplish better and more things here in our community. It is why it's important for you to get involved. And it's why I want to thank you all to be here today, because that really shows that you care for your community. And if you work in that way, because I'm willing to do town hall meetings every single month to find out where the need of our community, to find out what we can do to do better. Thank you.
So we're very proud of our work on the LA River Plan, and we look forward to moving this from a plan to a reality. And that's the difference. We will get this job done and do so in a way that involves all of you. It won't be a personal project. It will be a project that's a collaboration and a response, and it's responsible to the entirety of the community. With respect to young people, as I said at the beginning, look to what someone does to figure out what they're going to do. Kenwood will tell you, when we met, I worked for the Community Service Organization, one of the major organizations in the history of the state in organizing young people. My first job out of school was right here on 8th and Carondelet at the Young Adult Leadership Project, working with immigrant youth as a teacher. Mark Masoka will tell you that when we organize against Proposition 187, we organize young people county-wide in a fight to defend the rights, right? And then you'll know that during my tenure as a senator and as an assembly member, we had a program called Young Senators, where we organize young people and taught them leadership. But is there any greater commitment to young people in this nation today than the struggle for the Dreamers and to pass the DREAM Act and the passage of the California DREAM Act that's setting the national agenda for young men and women to say that we embrace you, that we'll speak up for you, that we'll fight for you, and you have a place in the future? If you agree with that, then vote for us for First District. Yep.
So, immigration is an important issue in both Latino and Asian American communities. How will you help in solving these issues of citizenship among Angeles? We're at, yes.
Look, I'm very proud of my work on behalf of immigrants. I've spent my life, if you listen to KFI by accident, you'll heard me referred to as One Bill Gill. My work on behalf of immigrants began when I met Bert Corona. I've spent a life doing this. As a college student, as a Metcha student, as a union organizer in an independent union, before immigrants were organized in the AFL-CIO. In the AFL-CIO, fighting against Proposition 187, proposing legislation like the driver's license and the DREAM Act, and fighting against the unlawful towing, to which yet you have anybody up here say that they're opposed to it. The abuse of immigrants in the first district, where $100 million in the last 5 years was taken out of the pockets of immigrants, exploited, abused. They didn't have a voice at City Hall. They didn't have somebody to speak up for them. We are at a point of immigration reform, and Los Angeles and California needs a voice on that issue. We need an Office of Immigrant Affairs that's aggressive about citizenship. and about assimilation, about language acquisition, about bringing people. This is the new Ellis Island. And we got to be aggressive about bringing people into the mainstream so that they can have better economic opportunities, have an opportunity to take advantage of them, and then have their rights protected through organizing and mobilizing. And that's what you'll get in the first district when we're elected in 12 days. Thank you.
By the way, I am against the towing of vehicles, as you said. I hope you answer the Walmart question at some point as well. The current council is putting together the Office of Immigrant Affairs. Now, what I think is going to happen in July is that we're going to have to fund it. And I hope to be the person that introduces the motion to fully fund the Office of Immigrant Affairs. But ladies and gentlemen, it's not just about creating an office, putting staffers in there and creating programs. Again, let's get back to the policies that we need as a city that will lift the community, which includes our immigrant community. And that is an affordable housing policy citywide, an expansion of the living wage program. These are real policies that as council members are going to confront you. But if you are beholden to the interests that do not support those policies, chances are you're not going to support them. You're not going to advocate for them. I stand here before you, ladies and gentlemen, as your independent candidate that has stood on principle in front of all groups that have asked in support of affordable housing and living wage. That's what you need in a council member, a person that will stand on principle and not on who they're talking to. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, now the thing is,
Yes, immigration is an important issue in both Latino and Asian American
okay,
communities.
you got it. All right, Republicans. All right, see, now he's talking about Republicans. I want to say one thing. Now, this isn't about parties. This is about people. Now, he talked about the DREAM Act. It's one bill. He talked about passing the driver's license. Never once has he talked about any immigrants, their citizenship. It's a waste of time. He hasn't completed his job. He talks about this DREAM Act so perfectly. Now, everybody here in the room that is a citizen also, he left them out. Whatever happened, or is it the statement was, no child left behind. Oh, wait a minute. He forgot his policies. He wants to attack me on that, and I'm going to attack him whatever you want. He's a man that's never completed anything he said. I'm looking at his track record. If you look at what I've done in this community as block captain, in every single meeting, in every single business, I fought for it. I've done more than this man's ever done in 18 years. And more than anybody at this table has done completely of what I've done for this community. And I'm tired of hearing his record. It is just, you know, his record doesn't even stand for anything. Even the mailers he sends out. That's how much money he needs to beat me. In 12 days, that's how much money this man's put in to beat the man that is going to beat him in 12 days as the next city council. My father used to drive a bus in this community and really honored this community. And I honor this community and every single citizen. So I'm tired of hearing this whole thing of how he's going to win in 12 days. Only way he's going to win is because the unions have him and the developers have him in their pocket. Thank you.
Yes, that's part of my heart. Immigrants, because I'm an immigrant like yourself. It is important to give the tools they need. You know, I'm willing to create classes for them to become a citizenship. Why? Because it's important. Because they can exercise the ability to vote in order to go to school for better education. Definitely it's important. I will create some classes for the citizenship. I will invite people, not just a neighborhood. I believe in the churches too. They can work together with the churches. And we can work together to bring the power that we have. All immigrants we have a lot of power. I call the elephant, the giant white elephant is sleeping. Because we have the power to make difference here in our community. As any immigrants here in the community has the ability, because why? because we contribute to with the system. We pay taxes like everybody else. I don't think so. Not a single person they don't pay no tax. Everyone pays taxes. They're good consumers. They pay federal tax and state tax, and I believe we should have to bring the tools they need to succeed and to become a citizen so they can vote and participate as well. Thank you.
Just to go in order, this question goes to Mr. Rosas to start off. Chinatown's business is not doing well. With the police enforcing the display of merchandise on Broadway, the businesses have lost 30 to 50% of their sales. What will you do if and when you become council member person?
That's a very important issue for me. I really work in the Northeast area to show the business to participate. Definitely, we need to have town hall meetings to bring LAPD. Not just to how they can participate, but how we can work together, right, to enforce the law. Why? Because in any businesses, it has a 12 inches they can go out of the door and show that the items they sell. Definitely, after that, it's a different issue, but people, they don't know. They had 12 inches to go out of the door to sell you your items. But unfortunately, they haven't had the tools they need, and their knowledge has to bring from the council people. And I'm for businesses. Here in this district, this is a struggle to succeed in small business in our corridor. Because I am a small business person. I suffer the consequences because they don't have open mind. Definitely, I will work together with small business and definitely with the LAPD to bring together, to brainstorm how we can elevate the problem so we can bring more business in our community. Thank you.
Chinatown's business is not doing well. With the police enforcing the display of merchandise on Broadway, businesses have lost 30 to 50% of their sales. What would you do if and when you become the council member for this district in addressing this issue?
Well, as you know, I'm endorsed by the Chamber of Commerce, by the unions, and the reason they are is because they're so frustrated at the lack of the opportunity to do business in the entirety of the First District, but specifically to that. And I'm endorsed by Police Chief Bill Bratton. I will bring the parties together. Because when you negotiate contracts, like we did in 1991 when we did the Rolling Thunder strike, or when we settled the bus drivers strike, 2001 I believe, or when I settled the teachers, avoided the teachers strike with the CSU, you bring parties together, bring them to the table, you recognize the interests and the needs, and then you get the resolution that serves the community. And those skills and those resources that are part of my record of 100 bills signed by 4 different governors, a record that I'm very proud of, that record and those resources will come and weigh in on this circumstance, this challenge. And we will bring those parties together for a resolution that meets the needs of the community, and that's responsive to the community, and ensures that the community has an opportunity to grow and prosper in a very authentic way, a very organic way, and very real.
Mr. Gordea?
Well, let me be the only candidate that answers the question specifically. Number 1, parking meters. You talk to every business person in Chinatown, and they will tell you that the parking meters, the increase in the rates, have severely impacted their business. So 2 nights ago, when I spoke before the CCBA, I made the commitment that I will be the council member that pulls back the parking plan that the city currently has. It was done in haste to address the budget crisis. It didn't take into account the fact that we have communities and neighborhoods like Chinatown that are both real neighborhoods and places for tourism to come. So I will pull back the parking plan. The second thing I want to do is I'm going to work even harder with our friends at the Business Improvement District so that they can use their money, which they pull together every year, and we're going to use it to leverage additional resources both at the state and federal level. The first thing we have to do, though, is put the city's program into community development so we have access to grant writers. I'm out of time, but those are 2 very specific examples of how we can help the businesses in Chinatown. Thank you.
department is not there to write tickets for any storefront. It's for storefront. Being a business, you want to present your products so you can have people come in. The other thing is getting rid of the parking meters. As a councilman, I am going to get rid of the parking meters. There was never parking meters here in Chinatown or on North Broadway or throughout this city. When I was growing up, I never seen a parking. So I don't know where they got this parking meter from. Wow, we're going to get rid of that. And I'll work with the police department. The police department has no right to citing you. They should be going after street vendors. You're not a street vendor, and whoever is giving you the ticket, see me afterwards, because I'm going to speak with the police department. I'll give you my card, because that is wrong if they are citing businesses. And I'm going to get rid of the gross tax receipts that's paid to the city, because you need to make more money for your business instead of paying more to the city. Thank you.
So, in the interest of time, we have one last question, and if there's a way that you can answer this question and also move in your closing statements, then that would be great. And I do think that because of the location of this forum, that this question is actually very appropriate. Let's just start with William Morrison. So can you speak about preserving a cultural neighborhood like Chinatown?
Thank you, that's a great question. And actually, in my lifetime, my family has preserved Montecito Heights and Lincoln Heights. And also on open space. So I'm a very strong advocate for preserving our historical sites. And now the one thing is, I didn't really attack my opponents too much tonight, but there has been neglect. I already said from the state level, I haven't attacked the local level. One of the main reasons I didn't attack the local level tonight, but you know what? These are your elected officials. They're the part of the problem. I'm not going to even sugarcoat it. And you know, each person that's up there that's running right now, I'm going to preserve our communities. They haven't done it. The only time they come out is during election time. I'm not here all the time. I'm out in the communities all the time, and I'm going to preserve our community and restore the communities to make sure that we put blockades so we can save the Southwest Museum and our historical sites. Chinatown is very historic, and I want to see Chinatown the way it was when I was a child. And coming and walking to Chinatown. This man doesn't care because he's never walked. You know what? I don't know whatever happened along the way. At one point, he was a good man when he got into office, but somewhere along the way, he fell off the road, and he's not on the road anymore. And I wanted to state this. I wanted to say for me to stop. We talked about parties, about the right and left. Republican, Democrat. It's not about parties, it's about the community, about each and every one. And I really care, and I want to be our city councilman in 12 more days. Thank you.
Mr. Rosas?
Yeah, it is very important preservation in our community. It is. It's what I'm fighting for the Southwest Museum, because we want to preserve history. And here in Chinatown, it's important to preserve your history, because that teaches how we came from. That gives a base how we can introduce ourselves and how we can live. Because history and preservation, our history in our area is important, because they show the roots, where we came from. And it's very important for us to keep history in our community, preserve what they have. The roots is very important. I was talking earlier with someone, how we have a lot of history in our lives. In all different communities here in Chinatown, in Lincoln Heights, in Highland Park, we all coming from different places. We have history. We have different roots. And I believe that you should keep it. Not just the roots, but I believe to keep your language. It's important where we came from. And to teach our youngsters where we came from, so they can keep it, the history of our town and our history as a people. It's what is important for me to keep preserve Chinatown. Thank you.
As I said, I have a record, and I'm proud of it. 100 bills signed by 4 governors, including bills that preserve the Bree Street Shoal in Boyle Heights, St. Viviana's on Main Street. Bills that create a Korean museum, Koreatown. Bills that support and created Go for Broke exhibit and funded JANA. And also bills that preserve the Italian Hall at the very same time that we preserved the Chinese Museum. Because those buildings are more than just buildings, they embody a community and its history. And if we don't protect our history, the challenge always is that then we will be doomed to repeat those errors. And that's why preserving the architectural integrity of those buildings are important, but more than just the architectural integrity of its history, but the integrity of a community and being responsive to it. And so we will preserve this community in partnership, in working together. I will be your public servant, emphasis on servant. I will sit with you, and we will decide how we move forward with our hopes and our aspirations to preserve our history and yet to build a better and brighter future for our communities. I thank you. I ask for your support on March 5th. It's an honor to serve. It's an honor to be here with you, and I look forward with your support, hopefully to be your public servant for the next 12 years. I thank you so much, and good night.
So let me be specific on the question. How do we preserve the community? Chinatown is not downtown, and Chinatown is not a museum. It's a real neighborhood, isn't it? So the question is, how do we preserve a community? Well, there's one very specific mechanism that we can actually create within the city to do that, and it's very reflective of historic preservation overlays. I propose that we actually create an entirely new designation called cultural district preservation, and afford cultural districts the same level of protections that we do historic preservation overlays. That's one example of a very specific way of approaching preservation. But let me be more direct about the dangers that we encounter as a neighborhood. If we allow the downtown forces to come to Chinatown and to displace people, because they want to displace more people, they want to bring a different environment. If we allow that to happen, then we in effect have destroyed a neighborhood. Now I stand here before you as the local candidate in this race, as the person that's dedicated 20 years of his professional career in working these communities, born and raised, by the way, in these communities. And for me, it's very important to be the option for voters, because there's a lot at stake in this election in a few days. And what's at stake for a community like Chinatown is having a representative that will be your voice, that will work with you, has worked with you. And if you read the LA Times endorsement of my candidacy yesterday, you would have read that they said that we're on the right track. We've done the right planning. We've done the right things. Now it's time to take the next step. And the LA Times at least believes that I'm the right person to take that step. Now, when I say there's a lot at stake, you're looking at a candidate that's been targeted by Walmart, and there's a reason for it. I've been targeted by Chevron. There's a reason for that. I've been targeted by Farmers Insurance. There's a reason for that as well. Now, start connecting the dots, ladies and gentlemen. In this race, I'm the independent candidate, not beholden to outside interest. My endorsements are you. I've been endorsed by hundreds of community leaders. I've been endorsed by our current councilor. I've been endorsed by our new assembly member, who has the confidence in me to work with him to unite city and state resources. So I ask you to look at the ballot and recognize what's at stake. And what is at stake is, in fact, the preservation of Chinatown. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes the program. I just wanted to remind folks to fill out these priority issue surveys, and then there's some deadlines that are approaching to apply for vote by mail. Talk to the folks at the table outside. Thank you.
And crossfade to black.